What's going on, everyone? So, according to Brett Siegel, the Los Angeles Lakers are interested in kind of keeping an eye and seeing what exactly Maxi Kleber as well as Gabe Vincent can bring to this Lakers team. I've talked about, I don't mind the Lakers going into the season as is, kind of evaluate and see. Obviously, there's some holes that appear at the moment, right? Particularly the starting kind of 3-and-D athletic, versatile defender, and then also maybe an upgrade at backup. But like, what does Jackson Hayes look like? He really took some strides, in my opinion, last year during the regular season. I didn't like him as a starting center. I had a lot of concerns about that, and unfortunately, they came to realization in the playoffs. But in a backup role, I do think he's a guy that can kind of, if he continues to grow and make strides, which we've seen him working on his game this offseason, I do think he may be able to fill that hole for us. We'll see, right? You also have Maxi Kleber. And then also, just bench depth and stuff, right? We got kind of 3 new guys that maybe can help in that regard. So I'm fine with the Lakers kind of gauging and seeing rather than just rushing to go make a trade or overpaying for a guy or anything like that, right? No trade is better than a bad trade. It's best to be patient, but as long as that patience pays off, right? And then that gives you time to kind of evaluate your expiring contracts, kind of grow in value as you move closer to the trade deadline. I get it. In a perfect world, you kind of solve all your answers headed into training camp, but everyone kind of has questions. It's just, resolving those questions before you get into the playoffs, and hopefully sooner rather than later, if we could do a December trade or something, so that way you still have, a handful of months to kind of get things in order rather than directly at the trade deadline. Or maybe you're kind of making, the Andrew Wiggins level trade in in December, and then kind of, doing a minor trade or something, or a consolidation trade or something, once you get closer to the trade deadline. But according to Brett Siegel, the Lakers are interested in seeing what Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber can provide on the court. The Los Angeles Lakers are expected to take their current roster into training camp and give this group a chance to prove themselves before charting possible trades and changes. Specifically, the Lakers are interested in seeing what value Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber can provide. So, he doesn't necessarily say that they're going to go deep into the season or anything like that they want to get into training camp and kind of give these guys a chance and give these guys a group. But if you're going into training camp with these guys, you're probably going to give them time during the regular season. Unless Maxi Kleber's just awful out there, or Gabe Vincent's just getting torched regularly out there. And it's if he's getting torched by us, he's probably getting, right? Then maybe they make some trade into training camp. Don't be shocked as we get into training camp if you start hearing reports or the Lakers do end up making a move. Because look, Rob Pelinka, he's even said, if that trade is there, if that move is there, he's going to take it, right? It's just, again, right now, it's do you really want to overpay for Andrew Wiggins? Again, I'm not against overpaying, but it has to make sense. And you want to make sure that if you overpay, it's justified, right? So you want kind of an educated, evaluation of this situation, and then see, because what if, say Jared Vanderbilt shoots 36% from 3-point range, right? And then it's okay, well, he could just be the guy, right? Or you still could want to go get an Andrew Wiggins, but it's hey, we want Andrew Wiggins. We don't need Andrew Wiggins. Teams are looking at it, Miami's looking at it as you're desperate. You need this guy, right? But if now Jared Vanderbilt or, Jake LaRavia, if one of those guys can kind of step up and emerge into that type of role, well, now you're coming from a place of not desperation, but a place of hey, we still would love this guy, but we don't need him. We can just go with Jared Vanderbilt and Jake LaRavia. Jake LaRavia is shooting 41% from 3-point range and has been, an A+ defender for us, right? He could play that role. We love Andrew Wiggins for his experience and whatnot, but it's not something that we're willing to overpay for, right? Now those conversations become very different. Talked about it when we went and got DeAndre Ayton. And I talked about even before we got Ayton, right? If the Lakers could make even a small trade, you go get a Nick Richards, right? Now it's okay, well, we're fine with going with Nick Richards. Even if that's not true, at least you can paint it that way. So when you're in these conversations, you're in these, negotiations, you're at least coming from a place of non-desperate than, hey, we're desperate. But I don't mind, Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber especially kind of has some intrigue. And I'll get into the numbers and stuff like that here in a moment. But, Gabe Vincent in particular, he really started to kind of come into his own and started to show that Gabe Vincent we know and love, that when we signed, all of us were excited for, because he is a guy that makes a lot of sense for this team. Guy that could be that initiator, right? But be that 3-and-D style guard, a guy that can defend point guards and twos. And, at times he can defend big. We've seen him get stops against bigger guys. Kevin Durant even got a great stop, right? We've seen him be able to do that, but ideally it's not what you want, right? You don't want him switching on the threes regularly. But the 1s and 2s, you can put him on. He can defend. He can be that hard-nosed guy. He's going to have a full training camp, full preseason. He had the entire offseason to train and prep and get right. Because remember, the previous, he was injured, right? So now he's finally going to get to start to get back to being the proper Gabe Vincent that we were, again, all excited for coming from Miami, where it was like, hey, dude, this is a guy that could be a real impact for us. This guy was, third best player on a finals team, right? And was huge for them in the finals, right? Now, imagine what he could do for us off the bench in a role, right? And it just, so far, you had the injury-riddled season, and it just didn't work out the way you wanted to. Then last season, he was awful to start the season. I mean, literally, he was one of the worst players in all of basketball. Not my opinion, a literal fact. And then you just started to slowly see him start to get back in rhythm, and he started really kind of picking things up. And so if he can kind of continue, basically pick up where he left off or even be better, then I do think there's value in him. Right now you have a Gabe Vincent and a Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart can defend 1 through 3. Gabe Vincent can defend 1 through 2. Right? So now you have those two guards that can be those pit bulls, be that kind of front attack line, right? And go after opposing guards. And again, kind of do what teams like Indiana and OKC were able to do, which is kind of send these waves of guys, right? So it's like, hey, here's Gabe Vincent and Marcus Smart. Okay, well, here's Jared Vanderbilt and Jake LaRavia. Oh, here's, and you just keep sending these waves of guys. Here's Bronny James and an Adu Thero, right? And now it's just you're wearing guys down over the course, especially of a 7-game series. Like an Anthony Edwards. Imagine if you had Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, Gabe Vincent, right? Like all of these guys, Marcus Smart, like these guys that you could just throw, Adu Thero, Bronny James. Yeah, guys like Bronny and maybe Gabe Vincent, they're not going to stop him, right? Like no one's really going to stop him, but he's one guy. But if you keep throwing waves of guys at him, right, now you're starting to wear him down over the course of a series while you keeping the fresh legs going. Kind of use that approach with Nikola Jokic back in the 2020 season. Right? You had Dwight Howard, you had JaVale McGee, you had Anthony Davis, and you were just throwing it. It's like Jokic is one guy, but you have these 3 guys that you can just keep deploying on him and keep the fresh legs, kind of wear him down over the course of a season. Right? You're never going to stop these high-end guys, but can you kind of, can you make them work harder? That's the idea, and I think Gabe Vincent's a guy that can actually make them work harder. And you look at last season, right? Go over Gabe Vincent, and then we'll jump into Maxi Kleber. Don't worry, I know people are probably like, get to Maxi. So 72 games played last season, which is good, right? Because coming off of a season in which he only played 11 games, right? It's like 72 games is great. And 72 games was the most of his career, by the way. The 2 previous years in Miami, he played 68 games. So, I mean, if he's giving you 68 to 72 games, that's perfect. But in 21.2 minutes per game, 5.8 field goal attempts per game, shot 40% from the field. He shot 35.3% on 4.3 attempts. However, 35%, it isn't terrible, but it's not great, right? It's not like, man, he was lights out. But one thing that I think is worth noting is he was, at one point was like 12% from 3-point range, where you look at the previous season, he was 11%, and that's me rounding up. He was 10.7%. He, 20 games into the season or so, when he came back, he was 12.5%, something crazy like that. He was well under 20%. I know that for sure. And it was like, dude, you come in, you're off of that, and then the fact that he was able to get back up to 35% is incredibly telling. Right? That's how well he shot the ball towards the back end of the season that he shot. I mean, we had several games where he hit 3 in a row and stuff like that. So if he could kind of, again, pick up where he left off, I think he could be in that 37, to maybe we get him at 40 range. The best 3-point shooting season of his career was on 4.8 attempts. So very similar to last year with the Lakers. He shot 37%. So Can he get to that 37? Because if he can be 37% from three-point range and then also defend at a high level, that could be huge for this Lakers team. But on 1.5 attempts from two-point range, shot 53.2%, 53% EFG, 71.4% from the free throw line, but only on 0.3 attempts. Didn't take a lot of them. Grabbed 1.3 rebounds, 1.4 assists. We'll round up to a full steal, half a block, and 6.4 points. So he's a guy that, did really good last season, again, towards the back end of the season. And then jumping into Maxi Kleber, right? Talking about a guy that has experience with Luka, is that kind of floor spacing big man that you could slot in. I mean, you could even slot him alongside a DeAndre Ayton or even a Jackson Hayes because of his ability to stretch the floor, kind of have those two big lineups. So you get some flexibility and some versatility in a guy in Maxi Kleber, but also a guy that can stretch the floor. Now, he's not like a Karl Anthony Towns stretching the floor. Like, I see a lot of people that are like, man, Maxi Kleber, like, he could be. I don't want to undersell Maxi Kleber. He's not only playing alongside Luka, he's going to be playing alongside guys like LeBron James, Austin Reeves. He's going to be playing along guys that can really set him up and make him look good. Right? He can run the floor. He can be a bit of a lob threat, right? We've seen him even in Dallas kind of run the two-man game with Luka where he's kind of getting up there and dunking at home. But he's kind of that versatile floor spacing big that can, give you different looks, and which is what you want, right? You want to be as chameleon-esque as possible. Now, with a Maxi Kleber out there, you can run like a 5-out offense to where you have all 5 guys being able to shoot the basketball and even stay big, right? So you could go with like a Luka Reeves, maybe like Jake LaRavia, Rui Hachimura, and a Maxi Kleber or something like that, right? And just have some floor space, or maybe go with LeBron, and like you got options in that regard. Max Kleber is veteran, experienced, right? He's a guy that you can trust in spots and moments. Has had some big games. He's had a couple big games against the Lakers, even. I'm talking about a guy, 6'10", 6'11", right? So he's not like a true 7-footer, but a guy that can, defend at the rim. Okay, he's not like this elite defensive player, but he's a guy that, can, if you funnel guys into him, he can kind of be the help defender, clean things up for you, which is what you want to see. And then also just the value is in the floor spacing, right? He's also worth noting, he looks completely kind of transformed. I mean, he looks more muscular. He looks more in shape, right? He's done like, all the talk and everything is about Luka Doncic, and, rightfully so, but Maxi Kleber, from what we've seen in like videos and stuff, looks every bit the part as well. It looks like he's really taken his health and conditioning and training very serious this past offseason as well. Looks kind of transformed. And I mean, he's been dealing with injuries last few years. He's getting older, right? You need to start putting yourself in that position to where you can be healthier going into these years. Because, you look at the last few years, he hasn't really played a ton, right? The most games he's ever played in a season is 74 games. And that was in the 2019-2020 season. Since then, he's played 50 games, 59 games, 37 games, 43 games, and 34 games. So not a guy that's played a ton, right? So that's something that we got to keep in mind as well. But last year he was coming off of injury when we traded for him. So we weren't able, unfortunately, to get a look during the regular season. Like, we have no evidence during the regular season. He did play a game or two during the playoffs, but it was limited role, limited minutes, where the only thing we have is Dallas. So you look at last year with Dallas in 24-25, he played 34 games, started in 4 of them, 18.7 minutes per game, got 2.8 field goal attempts per game, shot 38.5% from the floor. He shot 26.5% from three-point range last season, which isn't great. But the previous 2 years, he shot 35%. One on 2.1%, and then one on 2.1 attempts, and then one on 3 attempts at, again, 35%. So he has had one season in which he shot 41% on 4.2 attempts. So he does have a season where he's shown he can knock it down at a 40% clip. Ideally, if he could be in that 37 to 40 range, somewhere in there, that would be fantastic. Kind of up his total. But like I said, last year he was dealing with a bunch of injuries and stuff. So was that kind of the reason? Also, his minutes and production went down. His field. I mean, again, he got 2.8 attempts compared to, which is by a good margin, the fewest attempts of his career. The previous year was the previous low, which was 3.4 attempts. Beyond that, he's a 5 attempt a game guy. So he basically, his attempts dropped in half, which makes it harder to get your percentages up, right? So if you just go on like a bad stretch, it's so much harder when you're not getting 5 attempts a game to where like I go 5 for 5. Now that just ups my overall total where it's like at best I'm going to go 2 for 2 or 3 for 3. Like that's the difference. But 2-point range on 1.4 attempts, 51.1%, which again was the second lowest of his career. And then EFG of 45.3%, which was the lowest of his career. Free throw shooting on 0.6 attempts, shot 76.2%, but again, it's on 0.6 attempts. Rebounding, 2.8 rebounds. He is a career 4.4 rebound a game guy, but 2.8 rebounds, 1.3 assists, round up to half a steal, half a block, and 3 points per game. So again, in very limited minutes, very limited role. But if they can kind of, get him right, he can stay healthy. I do think that there is a version of him that could be really good and really helpful for this Lakers team. Gives them something that they just don't have, which is that floor spacing big man that they can slot in at the center, slot in at the 4, spread the floor, knock down shots. Gabe Vincent hopefully can be that point of attack defensive piece. Now you have those two guys being real contributors to this Lakers team. So we'll see. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.